She had the voice of an angel, but wasn't here to play nice. Linda Ronstadt revealed the musicians she hated the most. Not rumors or guesses. Her words were sharp and unapologetic. Once you hear who made the list, you'll never see her the same again. Respected, fearless, and direct, she was the voice of the 70s. She didn't hide her contempt for arrogance or mediocrity, and she named names publicly. Some feuds were famous while others stayed quiet, until now. 2 more musicians she couldn't stand have finally been revealed. One drunken night, one ugly word, and Linda slammed the door forever. The list starts with Elvis Costello. It was 1979 during a drunken night at a bar in Ohio. Costello made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Witnesses said he referred to James Brown and Ray Charles using deeply offensive racial slurs. The backlash was instant and devastating, but no one reacted louder than Linda Ronstadt. She was supposed to tour with Costello. That ended the moment she heard what happened. She called his words ugly and unforgivable, saying some things go beyond apology. Others hesitated. Linda didn't. She canceled everything. We're talking concerts, collaborations, even promotional ties. Her decision wasn't a PR move, it was personal. Costello would later apologize, but Linda never looked back. In her world, talent meant nothing if your character was rotten. And that night, Elvis Costello proved he didn't belong. But not every feud was personal. Some were purely about the music itself. Frank Zappa was a genius to some, a musical anarchist who broke every rule. But to Linda Ronstadt, he was the very thing she despised in the industry. She called his work repulsive noise, not just because it was chaotic, but because it felt hollow. Linda believed music should move you through emotion, harmony, and truth. Zappa, in her eyes, turned it into a circus of crude lyrics and calculated chaos. She never launched a public feud, but behind closed doors, her opinion was firm. Zappa's music disrespected the craft. They never collaborated, never shared a stage. That wasn't by chance. To Linda, art was sacred. And Zappa? He didn't just break the rules, he stomped on what she stood for, and she wanted no part of it. But sometimes it wasn't the sound, it was the image she despised. To a generation, Jim Morrison was a poetic rebel, the Lizard King. But to Linda Ronstadt, he was an act. She dismissed his stage persona as hollow theater, a dramatic mask that fooled millions but didn't impress her for a second. Linda respected honesty in performance. Morrison, to her, wasn't raw or real. He was rehearsed. She found his lyrics cryptic for the sake of mystery and his onstage behavior self-indulgent, not profound. While critics bowed to his depth, Linda saw distraction. And while Morrison's legend grew, she quietly called it what she believed it was, performance over substance. It's not that she denied his fame, she just questioned its foundation. In a world that crowned Jim Morrison a genius, Linda Ronstadt saw a man playing pretend, and she didn't buy a word of it. In the early 70s, Linda Ronstadt gave 2 young musicians their shot, Glenn Frey and Don Henley. They were part of her backing band before the Eagles ever took flight. She believed in them. She opened the door, and they soared through it. But when the Eagles exploded into superstardom, something shifted. Linda began to feel pushed aside. The very voices she helped elevate had eclipsed her and forgot to look back. She once said, "They used me like a stepping stone." It wasn't just about credit, it was about loyalty, the camaraderie, the collaboration. It vanished when the spotlight shifted. They owed her their start, but to Linda, it felt like they cashed in, closed the door, and never said thank you. Even legends couldn't escape her judgment, especially when their ego filled the room. Linda never denied Mick Jagger's talent. She respected the Rolling Stones' legacy, but being around him, she once said it felt like he sucked all the air out of the room. To her, Jagger wasn't just confident, he was exhausting. His energy dominated every space, every conversation, every rehearsal. She found his presence overwhelming, his ego hard to ignore. In an interview, she even described him as brilliant but draining. This wasn't about musical taste, it was about presence. How can someone take up so much space that no one else gets to breathe? Linda valued collaboration. Jagger, in her eyes, valued himself. They never truly clashed in public, but the tension was real. Linda didn't hate his music, but she hated the way it felt to stand in his shadow. But sometimes it was more than history. It was one explosive meeting too many. In the mid-'80s, Linda Ronstadt explored new sounds and new faces. One of them was David Lee Roth, Van Halen's wild frontman. A brief collaboration was floated. It ended fast. Linda called Roth insufferable, loud, and obnoxious. Where normal people just took up space, he seemed to be devouring it. To her, he was all flash, no depth. She found his antics immature, his self-obsession intolerable. They never got past the talking phase. She pulled the plug, fast. It wasn't about genre, it was about character. Roth was the kind of presence Linda couldn't stomach, especially in a creative space. She didn't need pyrotechnics, ego, or chaos. She needed respect. And Roth, in her view, brought none of it. Some saw him as electric. Linda saw him as a circus act she wanted no part of. But her harshest words yet seemed to be aimed towards a whole era. As MTV exploded in the 80s, music began to change, not in a way Linda Ronstadt admired. Videos became king. Looks mattered more than lyrics, and no one symbolized that shift more than Madonna. Linda never named her outright, but the implication was sharp. She said, "If you have to take off your clothes to sell a record, you're not selling music." The media ran with it. Fans read between the lines. To many, it was clear who she meant. Linda wasn't just criticizing a person, she was pushing back against an industry that now rewarded spectacle over soul. Where Linda had fought for respect in a male-dominated world, she now saw women rewarded for selling an image, and that, to her, wasn't progress, it was loss. Was it hate, or was she the only one brave enough? Her feuds were never about ego, they were about principle. She called out racism, arrogance, and hypocrisy without flinching, even when it cost her, and her voice still echoes today in a lot more than just her music. It's in the standards she never compromised. But in all honesty, which one of these was she absolutely right about? Let us know.